All right, everybody. We are going to be getting started for our weekly show now. We had a little bit of technical issues, but they are hopefully fixed. So, welcome to the Safely Extreme podcast, where we discuss game design and industry topics. This is going to be for the week of November 15, 2020. I'm, of course, Josh Spicer, and my co host is indie game developer and owner of Nexus Games, Shark, or Sharky. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. We have a new programmer on staff, so progress is being made. Hopefully, in maybe a couple months or so, I might have you another version for you to play.
All right. Yep, it's
That's
been
being nice.
once again another interesting week here. I got the proofs for book number 3 that I'm reviewing, and we're one step closer to getting that published.
Nice.
It also got eerily dark outside my window the last 20 minutes, so I don't know we're about to get hit by a major storm or not.
That's that may or may not be good. Well, actually, it's definitely not good because it's good for your air conditioning bills.
Mm.
As if I don't know if you even have to worry about that right now where you live at though.
No, we are finally getting cold. The weather finally realized it's supposed to be winter time or fall time right now.
It's still off and on hot here.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still getting those air conditioning bills.
Alright, but we certainly got a lot to discuss for today. So let's get to things. So our main topic that we'll be discussing later will be the impact of RNG and whether or not it helps games as much as people think it does. But before we get to that, we have some news and some weird games to check out. So anything big in the news this week? I linked to Shark earlier this week that EA is being sued, I believe, for having issues of kind of tipping the scales in terms of having people play against each other and forcing them to basically get into trouble in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's quite a story.
Yep, here it is.
I will wonder what's going to happen. I mean, is it? I tell you what's likely going to happen. That's EA is going to probably pay out, a settlement for a few $1 million, and that family will be more than happy. But everybody else will not be, and it'll be, nowhere near what they made off of that kind of thing because they made probably billions upon billions of dollars off of that. It's like yeah, hey, I did this dirty thing. I made $1,000 off of it, and here I'll pay this one person for this one family 3 cents. That makes everything fine, right?
So what they're saying is that EA has allegedly been for their multiplayer games having adjusting the stats of characters and teams behind the scenes to make the player think that their team isn't doing as well, and of course convincing them to spend more on loot boxes.
Yeah, I think actually EA did a GDC talk on that very thing. So if that's true, the allegedly isn't very allegedly.
Yep. And again, this is not what you want to do if you're having a economy-based system or a microtransaction-based system.
Yeah.
And let's see.
Tweaking player stats.
And this kind of sounds like Activision when they were, making it so that if you didn't spend money on cosmetics or on the items and loot boxes, they would put you into matching with people who did, and they would have an unfair advantage against you.
And Hearthstone did similar things. Which will probably be brought up many times today.
Yeah. And again, this is one of those issues when it comes to pay to win and live service games. You don't want the live service of the microtransactions to interfere with the actual playing of the game. It's why many, competitive level games don't, or competitive level players don't like to play microtransaction heavy games because
Yeah.
that stuff affects how you play these games. Like, imagine if in Street Fighter, if you didn't spend money on the right skin, your character would do 5% less damage.
Yeah. But there's definitely a big difference between like a pay to win game and manipulating stats
Yep.
compared to something like Magic the Gathering kind of thing, where you're not paying to it's a skill based kind of thing, and you're paying to basically unlock more things that is going to be useless to you unless you have the skill to take advantage of them.
Yeah, it's kind of like I always like to use like golf or like an equipment based sport as an analogy. That you're buying into, getting really good clubs. Again, I don't watch golf, so all I know about is you use clubs. But at the end of the day, if you can't swing to save your life, it doesn't matter how much money you spend, you're still going to lose. Now, in this case, or what EA's doing is basically you buy these clubs, and maybe somebody throws your ball closer to the putt, when nobody's looking.
Or maybe it's you instead of buying clubs, you're renting Tiger Woods.
There you go. And this is again that issue. Like when we talk about last week with mobile design, the main mobile games these days are more focused on the free players. And yes, like with a game that I play, like Illusion Connect and with some of the other ones, you do have to spend money to compete. But if you don't know how those games work, the game is not tilting it either for or against you otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially the gotcha banner or the microtransactions is the foot in the door to play. But then once you're in, everything is going to be balanced and tweaked, hopefully.
Right.
And I'm sure you're not thinking about this at all with a Neon Continuum, right?
No, I've never thought about any of this stuff. It's all new to me. I've never made a card game, never touched a Neon in my life, never knew anything about cyberpunk or time travel or aliens or machines or any of that stuff. Never played a platformer, never made a tactical RPG.
Wait, you have a time machine? There's a whole lot of things we could do with that.
Time travel back before EA was made and make sure that EA was never made.
I'm just talking about in the immediate time. There's a whole lot of 2020 we could warn people about.
Yeah, don't go outside and wear a mask.
Yeah.
You think anybody would listen to us?
Probably not.
Yeah, I don't think it would have made any difference.
Yeah. Let's see. In other distressing news this week, there was a swatting attempt at Ubisoft Montreal. And it led to a lot of people being very scared in that office.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
And yeah, hopefully they'll find out who made the call, and those people will get arrested and punished accordingly.
Yeah. And hopefully they won't just get a slap on the wrist, because swatting is seriously dangerous.
Yes, it is. And yeah, to Ratsail's point, yeah, if we try to tell anyone like 5-10 years ago what happens in 2020, it'll be like that. What was that movie? 12 Monkeys. They'll throw us in an insane asylum.
Yeah.
Or 13 Monkeys, I think.
We could just time travel back to, January 2020, and they'd probably throw us in the insane asylum.
Yep. But at least we don't have to stay in there too long, because what will happen, it'll actually happen, at least very quickly.
Oh, we'll probably stay in there, and we'll just catch the coronavirus and die.
Oh, yeah. We're off to a very happy start today, aren't we?
Yeah. It's like when time traveling back a few months in time is not enough to literally change anything.
It is very quiet today. Hopefully the announcements went out and everything. Or are people still in shock about what's been happening all over?
I mean, there's nothing to be in shock about. What are you talking about? I mean,
Uh,
everything is perfectly normal and nothing's gone wrong anywhere at any
hope
point in any time.
I hope people see my thumbnail because I think I did a good job of being a little bit of art there, talking about
Yeah,
RNG.
yeah. I hope people like mine too. We were ironically,
Yeah.
making those separately, and they ended up being very similar.
Mm-hmm. We've and we don't discuss what we do with the thumbnails before we make them too, people. Like we just like we were just both in sync this week.
Yeah, and sometimes we get feedback on it each
Mm-hmm.
other, but like we don't discuss it or plan it kind of thing usually.
Yeah.
We definitely don't plan to make this a similar one because
Mm-hmm.
we definitely want to avoid that.
Yeah.
But we're in sync today.
So, in other news, the PlayStation 5 and all the systems officially came out. I've seen people jumping for joy. And now I'm sad because I was led to believe that Demon Souls was coming to the PC. And apparently it's not. So
Mm-mm.
now I need to get good and find a PlayStation 5 at some point.
Yeah, and a lot of people are saying that as usual, there's no games on either one of them.
Yeah.
Although Xbox has more games because not because it has more games, but because it's backwards compatible and it has the Xbox Pass,
Mm-hmm.
which is not more games, but it is more games at the same time.
More and not more.
Yo, it's safely extreme.
There we go.
There's
Uh,
the obligatory at least one time of saying safely extreme during the podcast.
and I haven't owned an Xbox since the 360.
I haven't owned Xbox since the word Xbox existed. I haven't had a PS since PS3. PS3 was my last PS. Although I really kind of regret getting that one.
Mm.
The last one I enjoyed was a PS2.
And in a very weird bit of news, I see that Steam is having a sale specifically on games developed in Guildford. And one of them is Goddess. The game's so horrible that I don't know why it's still being sold. Better yet, why is it still in early access when the game has been abandoned for about like 5 years now?
Because it was never taken out of early access because they never finished it. It
It's
was
infinite.
abandoned. It was it was abandoned, so it's obviously not finished. And if it's not finished and it's abandoned, then it's obviously still early access.
Yeah. It also has the distinction of being mostly negative recently and of all time. Oh my! And again, that's a game that I got it for -$3. They paid me to play it, and it still wasn't worth the -3.
How did they pay you to play it? How did you get that one?
Because I had discount codes from Green Man, and they took it below $0 when they were all applied.
So did that apply? Did that give you store credit, or did you have another game that you purchased in that?
I think it gave me store credit,
Yeah,
but yeah, it was still not worth it.
it was not worth the $3 credit.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Let's see. But I think with that, let's see what games are coming out. We got a lot of very weird ones lined up. Let me see. And we'll start with Shark's Pick this time. So let me switch over. It did all perfectly that time. So our first game is
fine.
Archaeologist Simulator. And not quite sure what the gameplay is. It looks kind of very mobile-ish.
I think it's an adventure game.
You sure it's not a first-person shooter?
Well, it's definitely a first-person shooter. and a visual novel and an RPG.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be a Metroidvania too.
Take for all the dinosaur bones. Oh, we get to learn puzzles, animations, and sound effects. But are there graphics in this game?
I mean, there's probably not. They didn't list it.
Mm-hmm. Looks like a cute game, but I don't think it's one that I only want to dedicate a 24-hour stream to this one.
We'll stop it at 23 hours.
Mm-hmm. Alright, so these next two, I'm wondering if the people will notice a trend, but we'll see what happens. We turn to Z-Ball V.
And, we have the Dragon Ball Z of ball games.
Mm-hmm. Ooh. I like the game features. 40 new levels, an interesting puzzle, new platform mechanics, increasing difficulty.
And Steam achievements.
Mm-hmm. There are game levels of different difficulty and types. Some levels require dexterity and reaction. Some will require patience and caution.
So not all the levels require dexterity.
Gradually, you will understand how the system works.
Is that what they call a tutorial?
Maybe.
Or is it just gradually, they didn't include a tutorial and you just got to figure it out on your own gradually?
Yeah, apparently you have to figure out how all the interactions work. That's good. Because these screenshots really tell you how this game plays, right?
Oh, yeah. 100,000%. And you got to love how they use the box aesthetic where everything's just a box.
Mm-hmm.
Except for where the couple places where it's not, like your ball character.
Mm-hmm.
And like those two angle pieces.
What is this like 80s triangle symbol doing in the upper left?
Well, they were trying to break up the square aesthetic by adding some triangle. By adding a triangle.
They should add a hexagon too.
Oh, that'd be going too far.
Alright.
You can't break all the shapes. You gotta keep it down to like two shapes. Squares and just a few sprinkles of triangles.
Mm-hmm. So, with that, let's move on to our next game. I'm sure we're never going to hear or see anything from Z-Ball V again, right?
Nope.
And look, it's now Z-Ball 6.
Last time on Z-Ball 6.
And I think it's literally just copy-pasted the same exact description, except Z-Ball 6 instead of Z-Ball 5.
Yeah. No, I think it's got a little bit more. No, actually, no. It might be the same.
Oh, wait. Is a new part of the puzzle game series where the puzzles are tied to physics. The new part has mirror objects.
Yeah, and keep in mind that these are releasing like a few days apart. Like, I accidentally closed out my 5. What is the release date on 5?
5 is the 17th. So 2 days apart.
Yeah. So I guess 4 came out. What was that? Today?
Yeah.
And then 3 came out Friday, and 2 came out Wednesday.
Yeah.
And 1 came out Monday.
And
so,
2.
Monday's, its first week is ending today.
And to Rat's Tales comment, yeah, we gather all the Z-Balls. Do we wish for more Z-Ball games? Is that the wish that we make?
Yeah. It's not the dragon. It's a triangle.
There we go.
That's a triangle up in the corner.
Maybe.
We gather all the Dragon Balls and summon the triangle.
Mm-hmm. There we go. Alright. Now our next game is not a Z-Ball game. Although we should have just made that the entire list this week. Just every Z-Ball.
I'm sure that if I would have checked a couple more pages, there would have been Z-Ball 7 next, coming out on the 21st probably.
So this is one that I was tempted to add to my list, and like, this is one of those titles I feel like it's a decent idea, but I just don't know if it's actually something that's going to be marketable or sellable on Steam.
I don't think there's going to be no gameplay here because you're just making a diorama, and it's like, so you make a diorama, and what do you do? Nothing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm pretty sure this will be. I mean, like, and it's only a virtual diorama, so you can't even set it up in your room to look at it, kind of thing. Like, at best, you could take a screenshot and set it as your desktop, kind of thing. But do you really want that? And is making the diorama really going to be all that fun?
Yeah. Although this person's computer room, it looks a lot neater than mine, that's for sure. Even with all the diorama pieces.
Yeah. My room looks better, but definitely not as neat.
For a second there, I thought that umbrella in the screenshot was a sword.
Yeah, so did I.
Wait, we get a sword? Nice.
It's a swordbrella.
Which is probably going to be in the new Bloodborne DLC at some point, or in Bloodborne.
The swordbrella.
Again, it's a cute idea, but there's just not enough here, I think, to convince somebody to spend money.
Yeah.
All right.
I think there's maybe not even enough here to convince them to pick it up for free.
Alright, so Shark's final game is Arkland, which is apparently a strategy sports simulator indie casual adventure action. They show that visual novel, FPS, and puzzle game.
And I picked this one because it's UI the game. Because, like, you can't even hardly see the game because there's nothing but UI everywhere.
And it's not even like a good UI. It's just like it's like painted on.
Yeah. It's just a fake arcade machine, and the fake arcade machine looks pretty bad, pretty cheaply made. It looks like something found at as an asset store that's meant to be viewed from very, very far away, and they just like, you know what? Let's not view it from very far away. Let's just zoom right up on it. Kind of thing.
It also makes it even harder to see what kind of gameplay this is.
Yeah. There may not even be any gameplay. And, you know, this whole aesthetic and the way they mess this up makes me wonder something else. Did they make an even bigger cardinal sin by making it where your controls don't work, and what you have to do to control your character is actually click the arcade buttons with your mouse? Like I, with everything I see in this game, like, I would not put it past that.
And from a UI standpoint, one issue they have is that all the text is like scrunched together, so every letter is kind of like running or is like right next to the next one. Wait a minute, Indie Games 3000. Why does that sound familiar?
Because there's 2,999 before them.
They're the ones who made Archaeologist Simulator.
Oh, are they?
Dun dun dun.
Then that's a lot of red flags for both of them then. Because you have two games that are releasing like within a few days from each other.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's
And apparently one of my picks is from them as well this week.
Well, you picked a lot of red flag stuff.
Yeah.
By the way, two of your picks are also my picks that I removed from mine because of duplicates. So we're ready to move on to your first one?
Yep. And I chose a game that the screenshot looks nothing like a video game.
Yeah, 5 dates?
Yep.
I mean, is this the fifth one of the thing? Is there 4 dates and a 3 dates and a 2 dates and a 1 date before this one?
But again, these screenshots really sell the gameplay.
Yeah. I mean, look at the second one. You get to pick if she's intelligent or she's got appearance.
Yeah, and there's a timer.
That mean if you pick appearance, does the image of her change? You know.
Mm-hmm.
Does she wear better clothes? I mean, does it become a different girl?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like what happens if you pick intelligence? Does it again swap to a different girl and she gets like glasses and everything? What happens there?
Oh, and here's the new thing. You know how visual novels give you the word counter? This gives you the hour counter for the footage. Over 7 hours, the most amount of FMV footage in any game.
Yeah, and that makes it the best, right?
I should just leave my camera on and just record like 24 hours and put it up there.
Yeah, I mean, you should just take, a few of our podcasts and like combine them together. Like what? We go for like 2.5 hours usually. Mm-hmm. So just take like 7 of them. Take like 4 of them, put them together, and then put it together and put it up as the longest FMV footage in any game.
Mm-hmm.
And we could just, grab the visual novel maker and put like 2 choices. We'll put a choice on to, do you want to watch this podcast or do you want to watch this podcast?
And it has to have a timer.
Yeah.
Also, what the heck is this woman doing? Like how this camera stuff looks like her body is split in half.
Which one is this?
The 3, 6, 7, the 8th.
You're talking about where's the one with the pink hair?
Yeah. It looks like her legs are sitting down and her body is like in a different position.
She's either really a contortionist or something's going on weird there.
Maybe this is body horror. Maybe that's the real trick of this game. It's all a body horror.
It could be.
Oh, I mean, yeah, what is she doing?
And I have an issue here. The title is 5 dates, but if we go through here, there's girl number 1,
2, 3.
I don't think that's the same girl, but it could be in the second one. There's 2 definitely.
There's more than 3. 5. This game is lying right from the beginning.
5. There's at least a bare minimum of 6 different girls, if not 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm. You can only choose 5?
Yeah, it's lying to us. Either that or it's restricting us. And
maybe it's DLC.
And that doesn't even address the guy. I mean, like, can we not date the guy either? I mean, is it locking our choices here?
I think that's supposed to be us. I don't know.
Why would you be looking at us in the...
I don't know.
I mean, like, unless you're like talking to yourself in the mirror, and he's not in a bathroom or anything, so like that doesn't make any sense. So like,
I don't know.
Like, I don't think that's us. I'm pretty positive that's not supposed to be us.
I don't know. I'm still stuck on what this woman is doing, and like, is she a necromorph? I guess from the latest season of it. I haven't watched that one yet of Doctor Who.
Well, that's one of the personalities is from Doctor Who, apparently.
Okay.
It says starring Mandip Gill, Doctor Who.
I don't know. I don't recognize any of them. All right. Oh, it was entirely conceptualized, filmed, and developed during lockdown.
Oh yeah, that makes it better, right?
Oh yes.
I mean, all you have to do is not go outside, and that makes games better.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm switching the footage. I can't stare at this woman with the impossible figure right anymore.
We got to set that as your wallpaper.
There we go. So our next game is Dubbing Time.
Which this is when we both picked.
that I have absolutely no idea what this game is about.
I know what it's about. Just look at the first GIF there.
Mm-hmm.
That is the Joker walking out of the bank right at the beginning of that first movie.
Mm-hmm.
The first movie of the restart.
You write the script of 8 episodes and put mute. Wait. Doubling times the number of characters from 8 different episodes or voice. You write the script of 8 episodes and put music in 8 episodes. But there are 4 themes. Oh, 4 themes, 2 parts. So 8 is the key here.
Yeah. But the episodes are voice, but you write the script. I mean, how is that the thing? I mean, do you write the script, send it to the developer, and then they go to the voice actors and they're like, okay, voice this kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. Is this fourth screenshot supposed to be cyberpunk? Or just future? I see
I
neon.
don't know. Looks sort of Fortnite-y.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what any of this gameplay is.
What's that one game that's really popular where you make your own stuff?
Roblox?
No, no, it's not that one. The Gary's Mod.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this reminds me of Gary's Mod kind of thing. At least what I know about Gary's Mod, which is not much.
Mm-hmm.
But this sort of reminds me of it. Like a lesser version of it.
Okay. And you have still no idea what this game is, though. Alright, moving on, we have Space Squadron, which is now being published by the same developer of the Z-Ball games. And I think I'm starting to notice a pattern in terms of the quality of their games.
Wait, Space?
Space Squadron?
Uh,
Should have been after dubbing time.
yeah, I think I'm missing that one.
Uh-uh.
Let's see here.
Let me throw the link. Here it is. I put it again in chat.
Alright, grab that. Okay.
And what we have here... Earth's Last Hope is in your hands. Your role will be quite challenging. In this space shooting game, or shoot 'em up, you will earn the right to upgrade your spacecraft to unleash its full lethal capacity.
You earn the right to do that?
Yes, apparently you do.
Yeah, so this is a authoritarian, story where you don't even have the right to upgrade your ship until after you level up and earn that right.
I like the feature, ability to use active skills. That is actually a feature in this game. The game is packed with a lot of levels, and upgrade your guns and lasers.
Well, we all know that the more levels, the better the game is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just put a ball that jumps, or just put a square that jumps, kind of thing, and then or a ball that jumps with a bunch of square terrain, kind of thing, like ball Z ball V kind of thing. and then you just put more levels in it, and it makes it a better game. See, it only had 40 levels. See, if they'd done 50 levels, it would have been a far better game.
Yep.
If they had just done one level, it'd been complete garbage.
Oh, yes.
Not to be confused with where it is now with 40 levels.
Alright, our next game is SMIB Mission Cure, which is a horrible name for a game. Like, that's something that it tells you nothing about the game, and I don't think it's going to be as search friendly.
Well, I mean, SMIB tells you everything you need to know about the game. That's small missiles interplanetary ballistic, right? Or maybe it's small mouse in box.
So
You know, it
this
tells you everything you need to know.
this appears to be a programming puzzle kind of game. I don't know. Again, I've become very wary of games that the controls are annoying in order to make the gameplay work, I guess.
Mm-hmm. The gameplay is the annoying controls.
Mm-hmm. Something like a Getting Over It, or that game where I had to control the robot with just like one arm and like drag itself through the level.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the mission. Here we are to face a new planet. Doesn't sound right.
What are you talking about? That sounds perfectly normal. So we all speak.
The graphics look below average to me. Like some of it has like a nice like detail to it, but it just overall looks very low quality.
Yeah. It was a. I don't know if anything's technically mismatched, but it looks like things are mismatched.
Like
I know the UI is mismatched to everything else, so
it looks a voxel style.
it is voxels.
Yeah.
But the robot has a different size of voxels than the maps do.
Yeah, like when he looks zoomed out, it almost looks kind of like a like he's like made out of like fuzz or yarn. Like it's like a very puffy look to it.
Yeah. I mean,
Eh,
they definitely mismatched the character with the background,
mm-hmm.
and they mismatched the UI with that is in the world with the world.
Mm-hmm. And the just complete no detail the background doesn't help as well.
Mm. And that grass looks horrible.
Yeah. Let's see. Is there a screenshot that zooms it in? Yeah. Either it pops up or it's just completely flat.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I
So.
think it would look better with the perfectly flat.
Mm-hmm.
But then the texture they put on it is not a good texture.
Yeah. So I'm still trying to find some good horror games to play, and Fear in the Modern House Chapter 2 is probably not going to be on that list.
Are they scarily short in
Mm-hmm.
existence?
It's developed by only one person with what he had in hand, a not very good machine, but made with all the dedication. Unfortunately, as we've said, people don't care about dedication.
I mean, they do. Like, you can be dedicated to your wife.
Mm-hmm. But dedicated in having a bad product is not a good sign.
Like, as long as you're dedicated into that bad product, that makes it good, right?
Mm-hmm. I like the fourth screenshot. You can tell what's happening.
Oh yeah.
There's a bunny. Oh, there's a gun, which I bet you can't use.
Oh, you can use it. You can pick it up
Wait a
and put
minute.
it in your inventory. That's using it, right?
Look at the seventh screenshot.
Is that the book one?
No, there's text on it. It's after the gun.
Wait, you talking about the fence one?
Yeah, look at the
Oh, okay. Breathe, Josh. You're just delusional. Calm down.
There we go. Oh no, the
It,
game knows I'm watching it.
the game knows that you're criticizing it.
I'm
It's
being
like,
delusional.
yeah, you're being delusional over there. Stop being so delusional and calm down. Calm down, Josh. Stop being delusional.
Mhm.
Breathe. Breathe with me. We need to now start the that old song for Prodigy. Breathe with me.
Oh, and then the third to last screenshot. I will never forgive you, Josh. Is this a game for Josh?
Yes, this is a game for Josh. This is a horror game for Josh.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to request to keep with this now.
Oh no.
Because and they need to give you this kit because this could be horror research at the same time, meme research for the channel.
Mm-hmm. And masochism research.
Yeah.
Daddy, why?
You're killing 3 Joshes with 1 stone.
There you go. Alright, I'll put in for it. We'll see. Watch I don't get this one.
Probably not.
And then the history. You live the life of Josh. The life of Josh. That's going to be our next video game.
Yeah.
It's the sequel to Josh's Odyssey. Or is that the prequel? Oh no. A horror game where events take place chronologically. So it's just moving forward in time.
It's like, how is that a bullet point?
This game has words in it.
Yeah, that is probably actually more relevant than this bullet point.
Mm.
This game you can move in.
There you go. The horrors of a bathroom.
Okay, I got it. What I'm going to put on the Steam bullet pages for Neon Kidneys Doom. There's cards in the game. There's over 150 of them. You know.
Yeah.
There's UI in the game. There's card UI in the game. And there's a start menu. There's a volume slider. That's what I'll put for my bullet points.
Alright. Moving away from Josh, we turn to 80s Overdrive.
Now, this is one we both picked.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody will ever recognize this game.
Mm-hmm.
Because it looks nothing like a game that already exists. Although, actually, a lot of people probably won't actually notice one because they would have to be old enough to realize the game. Because this was what? NES days?
Yeah.
Or was it Super Nintendo days?
This would be Nintendo, so 80s.
So if you had a NES or were around that time, or even after that time into video games, you should definitely recognize this one.
Yeah. So this is one that, to me, I think it looks better in motion than it does in the still screenshots. But
yeah,
like,
although I think they put those yellow lines a little bit too close to each other.
Yeah. Like this, like the weird thing about this, like when I first look at it, it looks really impressive. But like the more I stare at it, like something just seems to be off to me about like kind of the graphics. I can't tell why.
Let me take a look at it.
There's 3 different GIFs at the bottom. It's like it's detailed, but it's not at the same time.
I'm not seeing any issues right off the bat, besides, maybe, making it a little bit too high saturation. But, that's more of a style choice.
Hmm.
Which is my kind of style because I like making people's eyes bleed with saturation.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a hard time not doing that.
Hmm.
I know one thing that I don't like is the purple at the bottom of the trees.
Hmm.
It's just
Yeah.
I think that's a weird choice. Like it can work for some games, but I don't think it works for this one because it gives that sort of like, since the trees are moving by so fast, it gives that sort of 3D look where you're, one eye's red, one eye's blue kind of thing.
If you look at the, what is it? The third GIF, the one that has like the mountain range in the background, it looks like, is that like a 3 or 4 layer background? Actually, I think it's 3.
It's 2. Well,
oh, actually, it is 2. Yeah.
Talking about the background, not the foreground.
Yeah.
because there's two different mountains on the background, which are not moving evenly. Like the
big mountain is like kind of more in front.
Yeah, that is not in a good sync right there.
Yeah.
I think what the issue is they're moving the small ones in the background. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense at all. It should be the inverse.
Mm-hmm.
The big mountain, because it's closer, it should be moving the most, and the back ones that are farther away should be moving the least. But the back ones are moving the most, and the front ones moving the least. That is inverse of the way it should be.
Yeah.
And also, it seems like a lot of movement in total, kind of thing. So, like, even if they did that, I think it might still be, even if they reverse those, I think it might still be too much movement. And then, of course, then there's the foreground and whatnot. And, of course, they use billboarding to mount everything.
Yeah. All right.
Everything is billboarded like the original.
All right. So our next game, we got, I think, 2 more after this one, is the Skylia Prophecy. This is from a developer that we saw one of his other games. It was I think it was Citadel. It was a Metroidvania that the mechanics just really weren't working for me. And I picked this one because it looks okay, but I'm just thinking again about how that gameplay was not stacking up.
Yeah, so this is probably part 2 of it not working.
Atmospheric music, tough as nails difficulty.
Get your cape for it, or at least try to.
Yeah.
And then you'll play it. Oh, I have a game that everybody's gonna like, and then you play it, and then it's like nobody likes it. It's like I thought it was going to be great.
And like, our main character uses a shield blade, which is that safely extreme?
No, I mean that's like a gun blade, but with a shield. When somebody go make a gun axe?
There we go.
Never mind. They well, I don't know if they have a. I know somebody's made a gun axe at some point.
All right, our next game is Kilta, and this is one that I really love these concepts, but I've yet to see a game really work with it. And as you're running your own guild of heroes, you build parties, you send them out to fight. The thing that the first red flag that I see with this game is that combat is completely auto battle.
I hate auto battle combat systems. That's saying our combat sucks. Or we're just think you're too dumb to do it. Either way, it's not good.
Yeah. The art looks okay. Like the characters have like a nice look to them. The I think that's pixel art, looks good. Or at least on the character models. I don't think that background was pixel art.
I mean, some of the characters are not pixel art.
Right? Yeah. And then when
I think just the sprites are pixel art.
Yeah.
I think the backgrounds are vector or something along, or just 2D. I think it's just the characters that are.
Now I put a notification, let me know when it's available on Keymailer, but I just don't know if. Again, like I want these kinds of like guild management, party-based RPGs, like dungeon crawlers, but I'm not seeing ones that do what I want them to do.
Maybe you should just make your own game.
Alright, I could do it in a weekend.
Yeah, if you skip lunch.
Yeah. Alright, and then my last game, and then we get to our main topic, is Mega Ramp. Because this is a game that has all the aesthetics, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'll be back in a second.
Alright.
Go on.
Alright, while Shark is on his way, This is a action puzzle game inspired on skateboarding Mega Ramp. 10 levels with progressive difficulties, not just one difficulty, all of them. Yes, I have played a Trianosity. I think I own all of them at this point. You must precisely set up the level's objects to reach the goal. Oh wait, progressive difficulties in which you must precisely.
Yeah.
The game forces you to use all your capacity of spatial localization and the ability. What's ability mean?
I don't know. Probably about the same thing as Witch does.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's. I mean, are they missing a sand before that?
Yeah. You must
Sandwich?
too complete 10 levels with progressive difficulties to finish the game. Believe me, it's not as easy as you can think. It's not easy as you can think. Okay.
So thinking is easier.
Yeah. The game was made with a lot of love and craftsmanship.
Yeah, just as the text was, right?
On each new level, you will face a new degree of difficulty.
Which degree are we talking about? Are we talking about,
10 degrees.
I was thinking he was going to give us the 7th degree.
Mm-hmm.
No. They probably spent as much love and care on the store page as they did the game.
Yep. Okay. But it doesn't call me by my name, so I can't put in a press key for it.
Yeah, it's not a game for Josh.
Yeah. Alright. So with that, and as the phone rings, perfect timing as well, let's get to our main topic. I may get up and close the door. Yeah,
the main topic of getting up and closing the door?
Yep.
So that's our main topic. So
exactly.
Who has some input on how to get up and close the door?
All right. But our main topic this week, we're going to be discussing RNG and whether or not it really helps as many games as people say it does. And we use, again, for our respective thumbnails, we both use Hearthstone. That will be coming up in this piece. But part of this discussion has to do with this idea of going back to roguelike design. And in my book, I talk about this as well, that there's a misconception that if you add RNG to a game, it automatically makes it replayable and better. And that is not really true. And it's something that we brought up previously when we talked about PNG, or player number generation, as Shark coined that term. So,
you mean procedural.
What was that?
Procedural number.
Oh, procedural number. Yeah. And what we were kind of getting at is this idea that the player has more of an impact on what happens rather than just throwing chaos to the wind or throwing 20 dice up in the air and see what happens.
Well, since we're going to refer back to that podcast probably quite a bit, let's do a little recap on kind of a short version of that. Basically, what PNG is it's RNG but with rules, restrictions that keeps the RNG in check. It's like PNG is it's like the difference between random gen and procedural gen. Random gen is just going to place houses on top of houses, that are kind of catty-cornered with a tree on top of the house, kind of thing. That's random because there are no rules. It'll just place it wherever it wants, kind of thing. Now, what procedural is there's rules that the houses have to be on the ground. You can't have a house on top of a house. Trees have to be in the grass, that kind of thing. You can't have trees too close to houses. All this kinds of things, right? And those rules are PNG rules because in the end, both procedural and random generation run off of RNG and PNG. Exactly. So like random gen uses RNG and procedural generation maps use PNG. It's just this extra rule set that reins in the maximum number of randomness, the possibilities. It sets rules that the RNG has to follow to keep from just utter chaos happening. And we talked about that, and basically we come to the kind of consensus that in most cases, not all, but in most cases, PNG is the way to go. You don't want actual true RNG, because true RNG leaves the player experience at random. It leaves the maps at random.
And a lot of games that you may not think is just pure chaos or pure random, it isn't. Games such as XCOM, for instance, or the Firaxis' take on it, that they've gone on record saying that the percent chance to hit is not always what's actually being recorded by the game. And what they do is every time you miss a shot, it adds 10% of a greater chance to hit on your subsequent shot. And this kind of control or PNG over it, it basically means that as Shark said, that there are rules. That it's not just throwing anything against the wall and seeing what sticks. Like, a really good example would be something like Tharsis. And Tharsis was a game that is 100% RNG. It will randomly choose what events will show up on every given round. So what ends up happening is you could have a run where the cataclysmic events happen turn 1. There's no way for you to solve them all, you lose. Or you get all the basic and simple events, and it makes it easier for you to win.
Yeah. And, there's an example of this in my last game, the Word of the Incrimination, where at first we started with RNG dodge chance kind of thing. And what happened is most players had no issues. They just played straight through and there was no issues. Other players would get these maps where they would attack, dodge, dodge, dodge. They would attack, dodge, dodge, dodge. They had verified stormtroopers, and only thing they could do is just try, fail, and lose. Even if they were, 20 levels higher than their opponents, there was no chance for them to win, because the game was just no, you're not hitting, and like the people that didn't have problems with it were perfectly fine with the RNG, because it didn't affect them negatively. It affected them as it should have, kind of thing. Because there's only I think the highest unit only had a 15% dodge chance. But then the people who, and they would dodge 15% of the shots kind of thing as intended. But the other ones, man, they would just dodge everything. And it would just really sour the taste in their mouth when that happened, kind of thing. And I've seen some of those in videos, because somebody made some video content on it and had that very thing happen. I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
And that was after I've already put, several rules into it, and I put more and more and more. And by the time we released, I still think we needed to put more in it.
And this is what we get, the difference between RAM number generation and procedural number generation. That with RNG, a lot of playing the game is completely out of the player's hands. That you can do everything right, and you'll still lose, because the game just decided we're not going to let you hit anything. With procedural number generation, what we see from a lot of modern examples is that the game will tilt things that say, hey, did you do something perfectly? Well, we're going to let this pass, because you shouldn't be punished for doing the right action. And this is something that we see, again, as Shark's saying, it's about having consistent rules so that while the results aren't going to be fixed, the player still knows to some extent what's going to happen. So an example of this I talk about in my book is the idea of points of interest in a game like the Binding of Isaac. In the Binding of Isaac, I know that on every floor outside of the extra hard stuff, there will always be a shop, a treasure room, and a boss fight. Those three things are consistent. What's not consistent are the results or what's going to be in said rooms. So I know at the high level what to expect with each one of those situations, but I'm still adapting to what's actually going to happen.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, the rooms that they actually generate, the other rooms, they have like like kind of tiers of enemies kind of thing, and you get the lower tier enemies in the early stages, and you get the higher tier in later stages, right?
Yeah, each biome will have like consistently specific enemy types that will show up. Sometimes they can mix and match, but for the most part, you're going to fight different enemies as you move through each biome.
But they're all like based off of almost like a level system kind of thing.
Kind of. Yeah, and well, that I'm not sure about, Rats. Because with Binding of Isaac, like Edmund has said particularly that he just goes for, he didn't even bother, he didn't care about balancing what items shown up. He wanted the runs to be 100% different each time. So there are
chaos. So that's probably true RNG right there.
Yeah.
As we said before, RNG, true RNG can be good in certain circumstances, but generally PNG is the way to go.
So a simpler example, this is what we see from deck building roguelikes, such as Slay the Spire and Monster Train. That when I beat a round or beat a match in either game, there is always going to be a reward. That is the fixed element. What those rewards are is completely up to the game. But
the game does, give it to it limits it to the factions that you pick,
and that's what I was about to say. Yeah,
and it also somewhat Monster Train in particular somewhat tries to give you a good choice in strategy too. But it doesn't. It's not perfect in its predictions, kind of thing for your strategy.
Yeah, but again, like these little ways that it tilts the choices or it tilts the outcomes is what we talk about with procedural number generation, or leaning more or getting away from pure chaos. Like imagine if in Monster Train, it could give you any card, from other factions on top of it. It could lead to some very crazy builds. But most of the time, it will just lead to a chaotic mess that you have no idea how to build this. Yeah. And this is where you have to be really careful when it comes to, again, where does the RNG kind of, put its finger on the scales of your play? Like, if we go back to XCOM, for instance, RNG matters a lot. Missing a shot when an enemy's about to kill your character can have huge ramifications, for the rest of your gameplay. In a very basic RPG, missing one hit out of 30, okay, it sucks, but it's not going to doom the next 10 hours of my playthrough.
Yeah. But in XCOM, it very well might.
Yes. And this is why you have to be really careful about where RNG factors. And this is something that Darkest Dungeon and kind of Spelunky, I think, fall into a similar trap of. That the player is really not in as much control over how these runs play out as you might think. In the Darkest Dungeon, you can have a dungeon where every 10 steps you get a hunger event that just eats up your food. And I know Red Hook did do patches and updates to how often those events happen. I don't know what the current state is. But again, this is a game where you can have a battle and hit every one of your opportunities and it's easy. Just as you can have a battle that turns into a 20-round slog because you keep missing that guy, even though you have a 70% chance to hit. And again, one of the big things is that there is no guarantee unless it's 100%. And getting people to understand that is a mountainous task.
Yeah, especially in XCOM too,
Mm-hmm.
because like they had a bug or a glitch where where every time it said 99%, you had 100% chance to fail.
Mm-hmm.
Your gun is like inside of their head, and then you hit the fire button, and they just turn severely to the left or the right and fire.
Just like when I missed a 95% close range shotgun flanking shot in the first XCOM.
Yeah. Although with the XCOM part I'm talking about, that I'm pretty sure that was a bug because anytime it said 99%, it was guaranteed to be a fail.
Yeah.
It was a 0% actually. Anytime it
Mm-hmm.
said 99%.
And there's another part about RNG that we'll talk about next, and that is actually its use in terms of gameplay. But stay on this example about how much the player has in control. The As we both have with our thumbnails, Hearthstone is an example of introducing RNG to a deck builder or extra RNG. Because again, when you play a deck builder, the primary RNG is going to be what cards you draw. If you just draw every card you need at the time that you need it, it's not really that hard of a game. You have the Heart of the Cards DLC that you bought.
Yeah. Which I'm surprised, Hearthstone has not sold that yet.
Mm-hmm. But the example of what happened with Hearthstone, and this also happened with Gwent as well, was introducing cards that give you random other cards. And it's not a fixed pool. It will just say, we're just going to give you any magic card in the game. Or this just gives you random monster. And this is the this is the issue that we have with this kind of design, is that in a deck builder or any kind of CCG, a major part about these games is the strategy involved. I play card X, I get outcome Y. That is a fixed event, it is something that I can plan for, it's something that can be countered by another card. With these random cards, it basically throws that all out the window. I play this card, I get, I don't know, I get something. It could be it could break the entire strategy, or it could do absolutely nothing. And this is ultimately the issue. Like, this will kind of be, I think, the mission statement for this topic today. Pure.
Maybe you play that card, and what you get is like a card that when you play it, you get 3 copies of the card you just played,
Mhm.
which then you play each one of those, and you get each 3 copies of those. And now you got 9 of them, plus like the 4 out there, and then you play those 9, and then you get the most 9 OP cards there is, and then you just play and you win.
Yeah. But the mission statement is that pure random, or randomness for the sake of random, is not that attractive to players. That, I press a keyboard, or I press a key on my keyboard, I get 10 million gold. I push the same key the second time, my character blows up. There has to be rules. There has to be a foundation for players to make decisions off of. If there isn't, then they're not really playing a game. They're just pushing buttons and, random stuff happens on screen.
Yeah. Which that gets us into a side topic that we got to hit on is loot boxes and whatnot and stuff that are around loot boxes like card packs, which are different.
Yeah.
And since we're on Hearthstone, why don't we hit Hearthstone first? Because Hearthstone is basically 4 loot boxes and 1 not loot box in a card pack. Basically, when you open up a card pack, which is not a card pack, it's basically a loot box, but it's technically semi-not because it guarantees you 1 uncommon card, which they call it a rare, but it's still an uncommon card. It's because there is no commons. It's the next thing after common, so it's a uncommon card, but they call it rares to manipulate you. Anyway, it comes with a guaranteed uncommon, and then it has 4 other cards that are random. But I mean, I think I've seen a GDC talk where they are actually monitoring your account and your play habits, and it's actually not actually 100% random. It's actually PNG that's manipulated because the system is monitoring your play habits and everything, figuring out what cards, what it thinks it needs to give you to keep you playing, and otherwise give you absolutely nothing. You will just get all commons kind of thing. But if it feels that you need a rare kind of thing, it'll pop you a rare or an extra rare, or whatever they call it, mythic or whatever. I don't know what they call it, but it'll pop like if it feels that you need just a rarity kind of thing, it'll pop a rarity that's completely useless to you. But if it feels that you need something that's usable to you, it'll pop, but not a rarity. It'll pop something like a lower rarity kind of thing that is usable to you.
Yeah.
And Rastel is asking, isn't that cheating? I mean, yeah, kind of. I mean, it's manipulative. That's what it is, and it's got to be illegal. Well, the fact is there's no rules on the internet, pretty much. So I mean, pretty much nothing's illegal on the internet for the most part. So it should be illegal. But
it kind of gets to that what we were talking about in the first part. For those of you watching this recorded, with EA using adjustable difficulty to kind of tweak people into spending money on loot boxes. And this is the difference between like when we play some of the mobile like gacha oriented games, that when you do, or at least on the better ones, or quote unquote better ones, that it tells me right up front, I do a 10 roll, I am guaranteed X. I could get something else, but I am guaranteed to get one SR character. And then we'll say, if you pull 50 or 70, I will guarantee to get an SSR. It's, again, kind of called the quote-unquote pity system. But the idea is, eventually, I will get what I want. It could happen after one pull. It could happen after 50 pull. But there is a limit. And the game is still sub to be completely random. Somebody will do this gacha, and they will get that best character on the very first 10 pull. Somebody else could maybe go up to 70. But the point is that eventually both groups,
or wherever the game sets it, you're guaranteed to get what you want.
With a loot box, like with Hearthstone, with EA, Activision, whatever, there is no consistency. I could spend $1,000 on card backs or on card packs, get absolutely nothing. And as what Shark is saying, it sounds like they will monitor you to know just how much you're spending, and then say, okay, this person spent $600. Maybe we'll throw them a legendary this time.
Yeah, I mean they're going to throw whatever their algorithm determines it needs to throw to keep you addicted to the game, but to give you as few cards as possible that you want.
Yeah, and
basically, it's trying to give you dupes. It's trying to give you everything that you do not want until it determines that, hey, we should give them something they want, or else they're going to quit and not give us any money. So they're just trying to keep the very minimum to string you along and keep you playing. And that is an example of a PNG system. Where your EA example is at least for the most part, was that you spend infinite and you still don't get what you want, because that would be total chaos. That would be the random. That would be the completely random.
Yeah, and to Rat's Tail's point about you need to disclose, and that has become a law for mobile developers, that they are, in a lot of places, they are legally required to list their drop rates, and they have to be accurate, obviously.
But that's still not a rule across the board.
Yep, it's not 100% universal.
Not anything on any particular platform, and not anything on any particular country.
Yep. But the ones out of, I think, China, or China, Japan, I think they are required. Like, they will do it in theirs.
Yeah.
But, I don't see how too many Western based free to play or mobile style games. And this is again, like, we're kind of getting off topic a little bit because, again, monetization and loot box, that's its own thing. And I'll probably come up when I talk with Ramin later this week. But to bring this back to from a design standpoint about RNG versus PNG, the problem with, like, the Hearthstone model and the Gwent model is that, again, you can't really make a sound decision off of 100% chaos.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me a lot of when I played Card Hunters, which was a very popular kind of deck building, almost turn-based RPG game that came out last decade. And what happened was, at a certain level, the game guarantees you, if you beat this mission, you will get a legendary item. And the legendary item is supposed to really help your character and, do all the fancy stuff that you need to win. What happened was, when I played the game, my legendary drop was worthless. It did not help any of my characters whatsoever. And what happened was the game was balanced to accommodate the fact that you just got a legendary. So they did a difficulty spike right after that mission. For me, the game was impossible to play because I didn't get an item that helped me. I was still using all my common and kind of trash tier items, and the game was done for me. I have friends who played Card Hunters, and they said it was the easiest game they ever played because they got the items they needed when they needed to.
Mm-hmm.
And here's another really good example. Diablo 3. Diablo 3's original loot tables were designed to be chaos because they want you to use the auction house system. So that if I was a warrior... What was that?
So they can make money off of the auction house.
There you go. So if I was a warrior and I just struggled with an elite fight for 10 minutes, I could get the legendary wizard drop or sorcerer drop, because that's what my character needs as a warrior at level 70 or 60.
Yeah. And I want to hit back on cards a little bit more with Magic the Gathering, because they use a good PNG system because, they modeled it after their physical version in their digital version because it only makes sense. And the physical version does go to the Gambling Commission, so they have to be legal in that point, and they can't do any illegal stuff. But the Gambling Commission requires them to not only list percentages and whatnot, which has to, I think it's 100% even across the board kind of thing. Like every rare is just as common as any other rare kind of thing. But at the same time, they make it where you have to have set values in there, because you don't want to buy a thing and not get your money's worth. They wanted to set values in there, so they were like, you're going to have to put in like one rare, in every pack, no more, no less. You're going to have to put 3 uncommons in there, no more, no less. You're going to have to put 7 commons, no more, no less, and 1 full card, no more, no less, kind of thing. And you're going to have whatever card count that comes out to be, and you're going to have to do that in every pack of this type. Now you can sell different packs with different kind of things.
Like 2 rare and 3 common instead of 3 common, 2 rare, stuff like that. But
but it has to be clearly marked on the package what you're getting, what you're paying for, because you're paying for a set rarity. You're not paying for specific cards. You're paying for rarity.
Yep.
And that's how the cost is determined. That's how it passed through the Gambling Commission, because you're getting a set rarity for a set amount of money. And that's exactly how I'm doing it in the Continuum.
Yeah, and again, that is the opposite of what Hearthstone does. That they just say, we're just going to give you 5 random things. One of them may be good, maybe not. Just keep giving money to us anyway. And
then they're going to manipulate you in every way.
And I want to touch on Amir's comment. Does RNG just cover strategic things, or can be factored into movement mechanics or shooting mechanics? And this is something you got to be really careful of. If your game is going to be action or player skill focus, you really need that to be 1-to-1. As in, I press this button, I hit the jump button, the character performs the same way every time. A platformer where your jump is random each time you do it would not be looked at favorably by people, because these games are about 100% control. Now, if you're talking about like shooting, some games will have, a crit chance on your shot. So, stuff like Borderlands, that I am moving and shooting, that is 100% on me. But when the bullet hits a character, it could do a fire effect, it could do a crit, it could do whatever. But you have to, again, be really careful about what the primary interaction of that game is going to be. Like, imagine Spelunky, for instance, when I can't control my jumps, and every time I jump, he jumps at a different height. It would be borderline impossible.
Yeah, I have a perfect example of this with a game I play a lot, which is 7 Days to Die. And for the longest time, the bow shot where you aimed it at. It had a drop-off rate. Mm-hmm. But if you knew what the drop-off rate was, you could fire it, aim enough over its head and fire, and you would hit right on target every time. Mm-hmm. Well, one alpha, they decided to do away with that and put RNG in there, and you could put, shoot point-blank range and still miss, because it's now RNG that it can attack anywhere in the reticle rather than right here at the crosshairs. And man, I hated that so much. Mm-hmm. And I stopped using the bow completely after that. I have, bow is my go-to weapon for so many versions of that game, like all the way up into that point. And after that happened, I swapped to the club, and I have not used the bow since. I believe they've reversed it at this point, but it put such a sour taste in my mouth that I haven't used it basically since, other than like dire situations at the very beginning of the game kind of thing, when there is nothing else kind of thing.
And again, like getting back to Amir's point, that if the player performs an action-based movement or action that they can't know exactly what the outcome is going to be, it's going to end up feeling like the game is cheating them. Like, imagine if we're playing Dark Souls or Neo, and I go to attack the enemy, and there's a 10% chance that my character, drops his sword. And it's nothing the player can do. It's nothing you can control. And you know what is going to happen. Somebody's going to be fighting like the final boss of the game. They're going to be one hit away from killing them. The sword drop
from death.
Yeah. And they're going to lose because of it. And this is why we don't often see, at least on the player's actions themselves, RNG or PNG in action-based games. You can have those elements kind of on the other systems, such as in Hades or The Binding of Isaac, where the PNG or RNG comes into play with how the world and actions around me are affected. But how I play that game, that is entirely on me. Enter the Gungeon would be another example, as we've talked about. That and exactly to Rat's Tail's point, that what ends up happening is that if something has a bad chance of happening, even if it's only like 4%, people aren't going to do that because it's random. It's something you can't account for other than not to use it. Yeah. And with
although it's not a bad thing to add a random bonus, such as a hit chance or a crit chance rather. It's not bad to, I think Hades has some weapons that, if you attack some, it has a random chance of, spawning lightning to hit your opponents or something.
Or just a critical bonus as well. But for most people, they prefer to know what their actions do. And, with Enter the Gungeon, what guns I get, what items I drop, 100% random. I can start the game and the very first treasure chest I get is a rainbow chest, or the highest tier, or I could go 3 or 4 floors and get nothing but green and blue, or common and magic. But that game is about the player, and as we've spoken about, I could beat Enter the Gungeon with nothing but bad items, because my skill will accommodate for that. Just as somebody who gets that lucky drop can still fail horribly if they don't know how to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like we see that also with the buying up Isaac, with the with when you make a deal with the devil, that you give up health for something good, or a curse system. Again, like we see that with a lot of action roguelikes and some roguelikes in particular, where it's kind of like get 50% more attack damage, but you now take 50% more damage as well. Like
Yeah.
Dead Cells did that. My Fair is you can break it into a room, but then you'll die in one hit unless you kill 50 enemies without taking damage. And again, I don't do those. Like I don't play games carefully enough for no hit runs.
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
And on the flip side of the coin that you were talking about earlier, you have like turn-based games where, I mean, the hit is already I can't even say it. Obfuscated. I can't even say it. But it's already set to where there's no like skill to hit kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you have to aim well, I mean, you may have to technically aim your attack, but you're not lining up your shot per se. You're not like do I hit in the nose or in between the eyes or in the forehead kind of thing. It's do I hit that block where that character's at kind of thing or whatever.
Yeah, and to Rat's Tail's point, that sounds a lot like Cavity Busters. That when you pick up the diseases, they will give you something bad, but once you cure them, you're only left with the positive effect. And yeah, that is different than what we were saying earlier, as in, this mechanic will always do something bad 4% of the time, or 2% of the time.
Mm-hmm. And like I was saying with the turn-based kind of thing, like RNG, you don't want complete RNG in that. But procedural is fine as long as you do it right, kind of thing. Where you make sure that there isn't a time when all your people become stormtroopers and cannot hit anything.
Yeah, and I know we played a game recently that was a turn-based strategy game where instead of having a hit chance, it was the damage output chance. So I would hit 100% of the time, but my attack would be no, it wasn't Mobius Storm. It was another game that we played later that did that. That I know 100% is going to hit. I just don't know how hard it's going to hit.
Well, most RPGs and whatnot will basically, here's your stat kind of thing. It's a hard stat, but there's a RNG built into the stat so that the number's not always the same. You're not always hitting for 47 damage every single attack kind of thing every time you use that. But it's a plus minus a certain percentage kind of thing. So you'll hit maybe anywhere between like 35 and 55 or something, rather than or 37 to 57 instead of just 47 every time, plus minus 10. But maybe it's plus minus 10% or something to come up with that number kind of thing. But it's percentage based off of what your stat is, but you still have it's not going to make a world of difference either way, because either way you're hitting in the area of that stat.
Yep. And again, it's something that you can still make a strategic decision of. I know I'm going to hit this guy. Let's say he has 50 health points left and my attack will do 45 to 55. So I know I'm going to hit him. I don't know if it's going to be a kill, but I can plan around that.
Exactly.
And I'm trying to think, there's another example that just popped into my head and then it left. That the player, like we said, the player needs to know or have an idea as to what the outcome of their action is going to be. Again, action to a reaction. If I do X, should X, Y, and Z, or A, B, and C should happen because of that. If I do X and between 0 and 99 million could happen, what's the point of me pressing X then? I don't know what I'm going to get.
Yeah.
And again,
Like,
some games will have like a slot machine and, a random, roll like that. But that's not actually playing your game. That's not the core gameplay loop.
at least I hope it's not.
No.
Unless it's Casino Simulator.
Yeah. Knowing what
Or Loot
outcomes
Box
are important.
Simulator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to a Rat's Tail's question there, I don't need to know exactly what the output is going to be. I need to know what the possibilities of that are. Could I get a really good weapon? Could I get a disease that kills my entire party? Does nothing happen? Does a tiny elf come on screen and start dancing when I do this?
It's Tinkle.
Yeah. I need to know what could happen and then plan my results accordingly. This is what we see when you watch high level XCOM play. The people who master XCOM, they're still dealing with the same RNG as you and I. The difference is that they know all the outcomes. They know what could happen at any given time, and they plan around that. So that they're never going to put themselves into a position where if this shot doesn't hit, I lose the game. They will take contingency plans. They will have a backup so that if they lose, they just move on to the next thing. If they win, they continue as normal.
I know exactly what you're talking about, Rat's Tail, and I'm pretty sure that was just you didn't need to know because there was an auto win at that point, and it was just like building up for, and I'm pretty sure that all the rolls were rigged too on that, and that they wouldn't maybe be in the same order every time, but it would be set things, and because like after every roll there would be a cutscene that responded to that roll, so like. Every time, like they had definitely set it up that it was going to,
I love
that up.
I love when mobile games try and trick you like that. Well, they'll say, "Here, pull this inconspicuous gotcha. We don't know what you're going to get." And then you get a super rare character, and they built an entire cutscene and conversation around that character.
Mm-hmm.
No, we didn't know.
A lot of games actually do that to try to hook you. They give you like something super rare and everything right at the beginning.
Oh yes.
Or at least supposedly super rare kind of thing. But everybody has it. It's like the most common thing out there.
Yeah.
But and like they do that to kind of get their meat hooks into you and hook you. Oh, I got this really rare thing.
So did I.
Keep on playing. Kind of thing.
Yeah. And again, like, this is stuff that we talk about with, I'm sure we'll bring this up when Ramin comes back on. That this stuff is not, like, even though there may be chaos or uncertainty at the player's level, it's not at the design level. They know what they're trying to do out of it. Now, I think we have, at least for my time, I have maybe another 25, 30 minutes and I need to get going. But I do want to talk about another point about RNG, and that is whether or not random makes a game better. But for what we've been discussing about kind of directing or controlling it, are there any parts of this topic that you want to bring up now, Shark?
Well, we said that RNG and PNG, the difference in between them, just like the difference between random gen and procedural gen, is the fact of there's control in there. And but putting control in there does not necessarily make it good or bad, because we showed the Hearthstone example where they controlled it to make it purposely manipulative. And we showed we showed examples of where PNG was really good. There's also when there's not enough rules in the PNG kind of thing, and there needs to be more, so it's still too random at that point. So there's many different levels, but in general PNG is often better. when it comes to things, because you get a more predictable, more planned player experience. Because like in the game, in the end, that's what it's all about, is the player's experience and enjoying your game. You don't want to make the players unhappy because you put RNG in it.
Yep.
Now, and as we said before, there are some spots where just pure RNG, pure chaos is fine, but that is in a very minimum amount of situations, and most of the situations, the PNG is the way to go. But yeah.
But I think too, like specifically with Amir's comment about Nemesis, that like Nemesis does not appear at random. I would say the alien is more random than Nemesis. Yep, and again, you have to be careful about that, and that I think that's a good segue into the second part that I want to bring up. And this is more specifically about Spelunky and games that will use randomization or random generation or procedural generation. And the fact that, and I bring this up in my book as well, this is not the magical cure or magical guide to perfect game design. Because again, we've seen people who will promote games as having infinite replayability because it's procedurally generated. That is not the case. And
yeah, infinite possibilities does not mean somebody wants to run through it infinitely. I mean, would you want to go in and out of a house 5 million times? A house that you didn't own, a house that you have no interest in otherwise, would you want to go in that house 5 million times because a tree was 0.0000000 millimeters farther away? And you're not even going to notice the difference. And there is millions of different combinations in there just for the tree to move like 1 millimeter. And that doesn't even, that doesn't even address the rest of the yard kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, is that one difference going to make
this game
you want to go in, many more times? Like, no, it's not, because you're not even going to notice a difference, more or less. And it just gets even farther beyond that when you start counting in everything else kind of thing. Like a tree on top of the roof. I mean, is that going to make you want to go in it?
Yeah. And Rat's Tail brought up the perfect point. You can't control pacing while randomness. And that's a very big point about this. That if you're trying to make a set or story-driven experience, randomly moving everything around completely gets in the way of that. If you remember, we were playing that game Chasm this past week. The Metroidvania that is procedurally generated each time you play it. Unfortunately, I don't think the procedural generation makes that much of a difference, because I'm still doing the same things, and that's one of the big points. Into Shark's example, you can procedurally generate a house 20 billion times, but if my entire goal, grab a bathroom key and leave, if that's the same thing, I'm not really getting a different experience each time I play.
It's pretty much always the same thing. It's not infinite replayable. It's replayable maybe 1, 2, 3 times kind of thing. And the changes, the infinite changes of the millimeter of the tree in the front yard, or wherever the tree is placed, or wherever this door is placed inside of the house, the map, the map layout of the house, like none of that matters. You're just going to run in, click through the doors and find out which door is the bathroom, get in there, grab the key, and run out, and you're done. And it's not any more fun. It's not any more engaging. It's not any more interesting in there.
There's no decision making going on, and this is the issue that I have with Spelunky too, and why I made my quote unquote attack video saying it's a bad roguelike. That the game procedurally generates every level every time I play it. But what I do in said level, and more specifically, the path to winning, is fixed. I know what I need every time I play Spelunky 2. I know what items to grab. I know what events to look for. Nothing that the game procedurally generates is really changing that. It's adding to the difficulty, but once I beat that game, or now that I beat that game, I'm kind of done. Like, it can't throw anything at me. And I would say Spelunky 1 has a little bit more variance. There are more events that can show up within each biome. And I think while they're both like very amazing in terms of their moment-to-moment gameplay, they don't really hit, what makes a roguelike work compared to some of the other examples that we've spoken about.
Yeah. And Rat's got a tell for Rat's got a tell. Rat's got a tell for you. Rat's got a question for you. There.
Let's see. What was?
Do you consider Spelunky 1 a bad roguelike?
I would put it like on the lesser examples. It's an innovative game, but in terms of what makes a roguelike work, it doesn't really have it. And it only comes down to this. I can replay the Binding of Isaac, Slay the Spire, Monster Train, Dead Cells, and get completely different experiences that force me to adapt. Mm-hmm. I beat Spelunky. That's it. Like, I don't feel like there's anything new that game can throw at me.
It's not very rogue.
Yeah.
And when it comes to Spelunky 2, I think Spelunky 2 is just Spelunky 1, but messed up.
And I'll have that video up where I basically just dominated Spelunky 2. I made it to the Cosmic Ocean, which at this point, only 1.1% of the people who have played the game have managed to get to. And on that run, you know how I did it? I played it perfectly, or near perfect. That's a strategy guide. Just be perfect at Spelunky and you'll win every time. But the point was that how I played that game was just about as mechanical as one could get. And that is not how most roguelikes work. And keeping with our topic today, any randomness that the game throws at me, it's not changing how I play this or how I approach it. So in this aspect, and just like with Chasm, the randomization is kind of like not necessary, or it's not helping as much as you would think it would.
So it's kind of like you're going through these runs and everything, and in one run you'll get a shotgun that does 57 damage, in another one you'll get a shotgun that does 58 damage, and another one you get a shotgun that does 59 damage. But like all the characters only have like 40 HP, so it doesn't really make any difference between them.
And what you also see, and this is another very interesting point, yeah, exactly, there's not enough variance, that with Spelunky, you'll find that for a lot of people who play this game, once they get past the halfway point, specifically in Spelunky 2 Olmec, the runs typically, like, once you have enough items, they pretty much play the same way for the most part. Yeah, like, Binding of Isaac in particular was explicitly designed around those spikes. That one run, I could just get weak weapons, I get a soy milk, and it's a horrible experience. Another run, I get brimstone, and it's just laser of death, or epic fetus. And the game accommodates all those different styles. It's similar to that with Monster Train. I could get a run, and Monster Train gets a little bit more control than the Binding of Isaac, obviously. But I could get a run where I'm going to focus entirely on imps. Get the Devourer of Crowns. Another run, I could focus on that giant brute. I think he's like the 4 or 5 energy costs. Get him down to 1 point. Get him down to 1 cost and 1 space. Duplicate the hell out of that card. Now I'm just playing like 7 of these characters in a single round.
Yeah.
And again, the game is set up to accommodate that variance. Yeah. It's not just I have to play this game A to Z, just do these steps every time, and I win.
Yeah, because like I played Monster Train so many times, and and every time I played it, it was basically a different game every time. Not technically a different game, but it was a different experience every time. That's a better way to put it.
Yes.
Where in Spelunky, it's the same experience every time. There is just a little bit of stuff that's different. Locations are different, what you find is slightly different, but you're still finding the same items.
Yeah.
You're still platforming the same platforms. They're just slightly different shaped, kind of thing. And there's not really anything. There's not anything experiential wise that is different there.
And Spelunky is a really tough example. It's kind of a trap that Derek and the rest of the team fell into. That is such a skill-dominated game that, again, throwing more vents, throwing more items wouldn't fix that issue. Because we're still dealing with fixed knowns of how to play that. I know what is going to wait for me in the volcano world. I know what I'm going to run into with Tiamat, or Hundun, or doing the Cosmic Ocean. So I need a specific list of items or things to happen to win. If you throw more items in that don't add or provide value, you are muddying up the results. And I use this example in my roguelike book. Imagine an action roguelike where there is only 30 items, 5 of them provide healing. And let's say healing is required to survive. That means on any given run, I think I have a 16 point something % chance of those items showing up. If you add in 100 more items, none of which provide healing, guess what? My chance of winning has now dropped exponentially lower because of that.
Because you may not get a healing item, and if you don't get a healing item, then you lose.
Yeah. But again, some people will say, well, I don't need a healing item. I'll just play this game perfectly. But how is that going to work for everybody else?
Well, they got to get good.
Exactly. And that's why I told that guy who said I wasn't good enough at the game. Yep. And exactly, to Amir's point, the mechanics themselves need to allow for more creativity. It needs to allow for more variance. And something like Monster Train, again, each faction has multiple builds that can work, but there are different ways of building said build. Hades being another great example. In Hades, my known at the start of playing that game is what my primary weapon is going to be. What I don't know, what was that?
Everything else.
Yeah, what hammers are going to drop, which affects what my weapon property is going to be, what the boons are, and, what exactly I'm going to get from shops and rewards. So, again, I have an idea what my experience is going to be like each time I play Hades, but the variance means that that experience is still going to be different enough. Let's see. There's gameplay, the animal uses. Yeah, and you can do that as well. You can have options that provide different utility. But again, it all comes back to what are the fixed points of your game. If I always...
Monster Train did something like that, with the hero upgrades, because they give you hero upgrades at certain points every time. That's procedural. But, and they give you 3 choices when you get in there, but those 3 choices are, randomized. But they're also they're also procedural because because they often give you one of the choices is often, the next version of the one you've already picked.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So you can keep on going up that path if you want to keep on going up that path.
Or choose something different.
Choose to, kind of go a double path kind of thing.
Yeah. And the thing you have to keep in mind is that this, as I said, this goes back to those fixed encounters. If I always know, let's say for instance that we have a game where on the 3rd level, there's always going to be a fire immune boss. So what that means is that on levels 1, 2, and 3, if I start using fire-based items, they're going to be worthless for that fight. Which means I'm not going to take them.
that's where Monster Train really excelled, because the
Hmm.
bosses are always different. But it would
Yep.
tell you what the final boss is going to be at the very beginning, so you knew that,
Mm.
hey, magic spells are going to be limited or absolutely screwed at the beginning, or hey, this
Maybe
guy's
not.
going to debuff the heck out of me, kind of thing.
Yeah. And this was,
And you,
I think, one of the kind of major or kind of one of the bigger criticisms of Slay the Spire. That
Mhm.
you don't know what that final boss on the third area is going to be. If you get Time Eater and you build a heavy card playing deck, he is going to destroy you. Likewise, if you go for a power heavy deck and you get, I forget his name, the boss that gets a permanent attack boost each time you play a power in his first phase, guess what? You're going to probably be drilled down before you even get a chance to do anything.
yeah, and that's exactly what happened the one time I got to the final boss.
Yeah. Or, every time I play as the Silent, I get Time Eater when I have a Shiv based strategy.
Yeah,
Which,
and I've never wanted it, because the one time I got to the final boss, it was that one that boost on power, and I built a power based deck,
hmm,
and that was it for me. I didn't play much after that.
yeah.
That was
And
the end of
again,
play.
the point is that in for both of our examples, our decision making was out of our control. I can't build a deck under this strategy because what if I get the boss that completely beats it? Now,
Mm-hmm.
if I know that I'm going to get that boss, that means I can start preparing for it. I can start building a decision around it. It's a little bit similar to like with FTL, that the FTL final fight is fixed. I know it's going to be the same three phases, the same strategies. It's how do I accommodate strategy 1, strategy 2, strategy 3.
Yeah, and that was what killed me for Slay the Spire. Everybody kept on hyping up Slay the Spire before and after that, and I was like, I don't know about Slay the Spire. And
Mm-hmm.
then Vulture Train came out, and I played the hell out of it. And they're very similar games, because the maker
Mm-hmm.
of Slay the Spire helped work on the Monster Train and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
the big difference is like, I absolutely love Monster Train, and I was the one that convinced Josh to get it, and I had to like practically pull teeth to convince him to give it a try. And you know, I could not get very far into Slay the Spire. I played it like a
Mm-hmm.
few times, but after I got to that final boss and everything, and just he had the perfect strategy to absolutely crush me, I
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, I'm out. I'm done. I
Yeah.
ain't, I'm not going back, and I probably will never go back to Slay the Spire. But I
And
tell you, if I ever have time, I
mm,
will be going back to Monster Train.
yeah.
I weirdly enough, I played it so much before it released on the what was that, the free early access
Yeah.
thing, and then I bought it, and then after I bought it, I think I played it one time.
Mm-hmm. And
It could have been
again, and I do have to get
right.
going in the next few minutes. Like with Monster Train, it is not that complex in terms of its randomization or its procedural generation compared to some of the other roguelikes that we've seen and played. But what it does is that it's so targeted into what aspects are going to be shoveled each time that it leads to those very different experiences.
Yeah, and it's targeted in a way to help the player
Mm-hmm.
be do their best, kind of thing. It's not trying to screw them over. At the same time, it's trying to help them do the best. It's not exactly pulling any punches either.
Yeah.
So like, it's not necessarily maximizing the challenge, but the challenge is definitely not taking a back seat, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's giving you good cards and everything, so that you have what you should have in theory, what you need to complete it every time. I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
But it's all up to player choice and which way you go and everything to if you're actually going to take the path that they think you're going to succeed on.
Yeah. And like here's like the perfect example of this. In Spelunky 2, there's an issue that on that the final area before Tiamat with the kind of alien lasers and death orbs floating around, that a death orb can hit the ghost pot that's off screen the second you start playing the game and trigger the ghost to come and kill you within 5 seconds. And when that happens, there's literally nothing you can do. Most likely you are going to die because the game decided to roll a 1 when it was assigned whether or not to give you a chance at winning.
Ooh. That's nasty.
And again, this is the point when we talk about whether or not RNG will help. Does it give the player more options? Does it present different experiences? If all your RNG does is say, if I roll 8 to 10, the player wins every time. If I roll 4 to 7, they have an 8% chance of winning. If they roll 1 to 3, you just lose immediately. Don't even bother playing.
Yeah. What do you feel about, if you roll, those, but instead of those choices, it's you do slightly better, you do slightly worse, or you do, about the same?
Yeah. That would be at least a little bit more in control.
Yeah, well, it's very in control
Yeah.
because it's not that much of a difference kind of thing, but it is a difference to where if you were in a close match, it would be the deciding factor.
Mm-hmm.
Where at the same time, if you were completely outmatched, it's not going to matter either way.
Yep.
And if you were completely outmatching them, it's not going to matter either. It only really matters when you're close to that line kind of thing. When you're close to that line and you're pretty equal in strength kind of thing, that's when it's really going to matter kind of thing.
Yeah. And again, that the player should be in control at the end of the day. If it's a case where, I get RNG, like if I get the perfect strategy and I still lose, they're not going to really enjoy that. But if it's a case of, everything works and it helps me, and if everything doesn't work, I can still win, I can still pull out a victory. And this is what we see, and this will be my final point I have to get going, that the very best action roguelites, however you want to describe it, I can have a horrible run in terms of randomization and still pull out a victory. Just as I can have the run do everything I want and I may lose. And the point is that the game has enough variance to accommodate all of that. That I know that when I play this, I could win, I could lose, but it's not like there's some unseen hand that decides, pull the you die lever at some random point.
Yeah, I have a question for you
Mm-hmm.
about Monster Train. Would you say that if you're really skilled at Monster Train, that you can pull off a win almost every game?
I would say if we're talking about like level 0 in terms of their progressive difficulty, I would say yes. If we're talking like level 20, level 25, you are more tethered to the RNG or the PNG at that point.
All right.
Because
So
when
in the first several levels, you have basically complete control, and then on the higher get good levels, you're more tied to the RNG.
Yeah, like when
Although
you get
that doesn't make sense at that point because the higher get good levels depend on randomness, not your skills.
Yeah. There are basically more factors against you at the higher levels, so you can't really, survive by the skin of your teeth as much. Especially when you get to the final boss. When they boost their stats up, like, you need to have a solid game plan. Like, it needs to come together, or you're not winning. Like, there's no 11th hour victory or miracle on, like, level 23, level 24.
You're right.
But I think that's my final point. Do you have anything you want to add to end things on?
Hmm. RNG is not necessarily good or bad, but there is one thing that I think is almost always a good thing with RNG,
Mm-hmm.
and that's that it can provide a emotional response from it can evoke emotional response from a player, from whether you win something really big or you lose something really big, kind of thing. That can provoke a emotional response out of the player, as in, oh man, only if I had gotten that, kind of thing, or only, or like, yes, I got that really awesome thing I really
Mm-hmm.
wanted. And that goes into, a good bit of psychology and whatnot. But that's what happens with the crit check. Yes, I critted. I did that extra damage right at the right time, and that just really just helped me out so much,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. I really love that kind of thing. Or but if that surprise is too far out there, kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
it can hurt the game. And you need to kind of rein in and make that surprise not too overwhelming, because if you do make it too overwhelming, both positively and negatively, if you do it positively, then the game is easy at that point and unchallenging and probably
Mm-hmm.
boring. If you make it too harsh, then possibly too harsh, then the game is punishing and is just completely
Mm-hmm.
saying it's pulling the you cannot win lever
Yeah.
in the game. So you don't want to go to either extreme, kind of thing. Surprise is good, but don't go over the top with it.
Mm-hmm.
And the main way to not go over the top of it is by using PNG versus RNG.
Mm-hmm.
The procedural bit with the rules and everything. Use the rules to rein in the results, making sure that you don't go to either extreme, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Again, you want the experience to be consistent. You don't want it to be fixed.
Hmm. But at the same time, you don't want it to be just broken,
Mm-hmm.
where it's an auto win or auto lose based off of something that had nothing in your control.
Yeah.
Because
Like,
you want the players to feel in control of your game.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
we have already did a talk on PNG, actually.
yeah. And like, there's an example from Spelunky 2 that in the Cosmic Ocean, one of the generations can spawn the block that crushes you trap literally above your head the second the level loads. And if you're not paying attention or if you're not seeing in time, you're gonna die. And there was literally, very little you could have done. It's just basically, here's a death trap, you're dead.
Nitron.
But I think with that, mm-hmm. Hey Mojo. But I think with that, we are going to wrap things up for this chat. I think this was another really solid one.
Yep, Mojo came right for the end.
Mm-hmm. But as always, for those of you watching, thank you so much for tuning in. Let us know what you think in the comments below. I'll be updating the Game Wisdom Discord channel with a link down below as well with our topic of the week. And be sure to follow me on Twitter at GWBicer.
Yep, and you can follow me at Nexus Games LLC 1 on Twitter. You can also follow me on Discord, which is a place I would advise. We talk and we have game nights and all kinds of other stuff. Have our once a month dev chats. You'll find out about all the streams and everything that I do and whatnot on my channel. And there's also my YouTube channel. But you can find all the links to Twitter, YouTube, Discord, all that stuff down below. And if you're a developer, definitely swing by the Discord. I'm free to answer questions and whatnot. So, come in there and ask me questions. If you're somebody interested in, Neon Continuum, my current game, which is a sci-fi game that, was a core theme around cyberpunk, but it's also time travel, aliens, machines, all this other different stuff, and it's a card game based off of Triple Triad. but with a lot of inspiration from Magic the Gathering, other card games, kind of thing. Like people have really enjoyed that. Josh, before me and Josh did podcast, Josh found that game in the Indie Spotlight, and that's the one on the old Sunday cast before it was called the Safely Stream podcast. When Rob was here with him, he definitely very much talked a lot about that game on that podcast. Do you remember that one, Josh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like it was, it's pretty fun game. And so if you're interested in that, come and join. And hopefully we'll have something playable again in the Discord pretty soon. Hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully the first Saturday of next month. Hopefully.
And if you have any suggestions for topics for future shows, please let us know in the comments or come onto our Discords. And
tell us that.
Yep. And we will be back next Sunday around 4:30 ET for our regular shows. And come back for the latest discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. And for you, Shark, when do you do streaming and such for people to watch you?
I do streaming on Sundays with the Safely Stream podcast. I do it on Fridays with my dev streams, where I'm currently making a energy card and for the game. And I do, when I don't forget anyway, I do Tuesday streams where I play games and whatnot. And I think I got something good coming this Tuesday. I'm thinking the what was that? What is that game? That brand new one that just came out.
Dystopia, Dismantle, I think.
Yeah, Dismantle. I think I might be doing that one Tuesday.
All right, cool.
I'm really looking forward to that game.
All right. Well, with that said, we're going to wrap things up. So have a great rest of your Sunday, and we will talk to you again next time. Take care.